Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. And finally, I am back. After what feels like 3 months, I think it's actually only been 3 weeks, I finally have internet again. Good fortune, I was expecting to get back tomorrow. I got it back today, and that meant I was able to watch the 2020 Austrian Grand Prix that kicks off the Formula One season finally. So sit back, here's my views, leave comments down below, and thank you for watching. And I'm saying that at the start for no reason.
Welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport.
So I watched qualifying and it was pretty much business as usual. Mercedes dominated, kind of to be expected at this point. But Ferrari struggled, and we saw they were basically in a straight fight with McLaren and Racing Point. And that's a pretty embarrassing situation for them to be in, and it got worse. But the race, Hamilton was penalised, so he wasn't going to start in second. He ended up starting fifth. And the start of the race was him working his way up to second, which he managed, especially after Verstappen retired. Something that happens far too often. Verstappen is a great driver. He's been the only driver consistently taking it to Mercedes, even only occasionally. And him going out on lap 11 with, I think it was hydraulic issues. Real shame. Kind of, you want to see him in the race. And if he was there at the end, he might have been able to catch the Mercedes, but he was out. Stroll was having a great race. I rag on him all the time for being a pay driver. His daddy pays the bills. He put in a fantastic performance in qualifying. He was doing great in the race, but he was having engine problems. He was starting to fall back. Ricciardo then retired. Renault need to give him a better car. Stroll was still dropping back. I think Gasly got past him into 10th before Grosjean spun. It's becoming a thing with Grosjean. I like Grosjean. I have no reason for liking Grosjean. He seems like a really nice guy. But he makes far too many mistakes nowadays, especially for a driver as experienced as he is. I think he's probably going to lose his seat because he's been driving really badly the last couple of years. So he spun. He wasn't that much farther ahead than the Williams anyway. So he was back of the pack. Stroll then retired with his engine failures, so he was gone, which was a shame because this was a good chance for him to score points. Keep up with Perez. Ocon passed Magnussen, who then spun with brake issues, and that brought out the first safety car. Not much happened during the pit stops, but afterwards we saw Vettel try a really stupid manoeuvre on Carlos Sainz. The driver replacing him at Ferrari, he basically tried to bonsai him. I don't know what he was thinking. Just seemed too late on the brakes. He was already spinning before he hit Sainz, didn't cause any damage to Sainz, but Vettel spun, went to the back of the grid. So that pretty much summed up Ferrari's race. They seemed to have no pace. They were in a direct fight with McLaren and Racing Point. Grosjean went off again. He retired, so I think it was brake issues for him as well. And then Russell, the Williams retired. Williams, who were just at the back the whole time last year, they seem to have improved slightly. They're at least up with the Hasses, maybe the Alfa Romeos. They're not quick. They're at the back end of the midfield, and Latifi, obviously, he was last pretty much the whole race. He still got 11th just by surviving, which was a great result for him, especially on the only driver debuting this year. But Russell was driving really well. He would have scored points had he survived. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. So there was another safety car whilst he was moved out of the way, but the Mercedes drivers and Perez didn't pit for new tyres. Mercedes seemed to be having some issues. I'm dubious as to the extent of these issues. They kept saying on the radio they were critical on gearbox. Oh, it was sensory, wasn't it? Something to do with gearbox sensors. I don't know if that's true or they were just trying to get their drivers to A, stop fighting, or B, pushing the cars too hard. Whatever, there was a chance that they could be beaten because Albon was on fresh tyres and he was in 4th place. Before the race could restart, Raikkonen had an issue. I don't know whether it was his tyre wasn't fitted properly or it just fell off. The curbs at Austria are apparently famous for doing damage to cars, and he definitely did in this race. A lot of retirements. But yeah, Raikkonen was out, and he was parked on the pit wall, so he had to be moved. So we had another safety car period. As soon as the action started again, the big incident happened. Albon, who had got past Perez before the restart, went for a move on Lewis Hamilton, who once again denied Albon a podium by taking him out. And obviously the first thing the commentators do is defend Hamilton. And honestly, when you first look at it, it does just seem to be Albon was trying his luck too much on the outside. Hamilton just tagged him. It was on the in-car replay you saw that Albon was ahead of him at the midpoint of the corner. I don't really know if Hamilton could have backed off or stayed deeper. I'm guessing he could have, but he didn't give Albon enough room. Albon got spun round. Another lost opportunity for him. I feel really bad for him. I don't know what he's done to upset Hamilton. Maybe Lewis Hamilton walked in on him sleeping with his mum. That's the only reason I can think of why he wants to deny Alexander Albon a podium at every opportunity. As it is, Hamilton had a 5-second penalty. I think that was a fair response to that. I know Wolf came out and said that it wasn't fair. He's obviously going to say that. He is the Mercedes team boss. It was fair. It didn't cost Hamilton too much. He finished 4th. Leclerc pulled off a fantastic move on Perez. I don't know why the Ferrari suddenly came alive in the last 5 or so laps. But Leclerc ended up getting second because he overtook Perez on old tyres, admittedly. And he managed to start to catch up to the Mercedes. Perez was also given a 5-second penalty, which I don't think affected him in the end. Albon then retired with damage. Shame. Albon was honestly probably my top driver for this race. He did a really good job. He was very unlucky. What else happened? Norris bumped past Perez. Perez probably should have given him more room, but it was a racing incident. It was fine. Norris got past him, no damage, no harm. This was a great race for Norris. I take it back, actually. Norris was my top driver for this race. He was fantastic all weekend. Qualified well. I think qualified 4th and then got past Hamilton when Hamilton was penalised. So he was started 3rd. I think he was the first McLaren driver to start 3rd since Button in 2013. I think I heard that. That is A, really sad for McLaren, but B, Norris is just a really talented driver, and I think he's gone unnoticed with Sainz having a great season last year and getting that Ferrari move, which may not be a good choice now looking at it because they seem to have dropped behind McLaren. But if Ferrari come calling, you're probably not going to say no. And as it's turned out, they didn't offer Vettel a new contract, and given how bad Vettel sort of drove at the tail end of last year and this race, that may be the best thing Ferrari have ever done. I love Vettel. I remember the dominant years when everyone was getting a bit fed up with him, me included. But I would never deny that Vettel was a great driver. I think that seemed to stop at some point. He really doesn't seem to have that same... I don't know about racecraft, but motivation definitely he lacks. He does seem to get caught up in more incidents nowadays. Or he always used to, actually. I'm not really sure with Vettel. Because I remember the time he hit Webber and they spun out at Red Bull. And there's obviously the Ferrari crashes in 2018. I think history may look back poorly on Vettel, but he was a great driver. When he was in command of a race, he really commanded that race. 9 wins in a row. Says a lot. And talking of Vettel, he then bumped past Kvyat. I don't think it caused the damage to Kvyat that ended up with him. Again, another tyre exploding. I think it was a rear suspension failure. Kvyat was out of the race. Which shame, he drove quite well. And then Hamilton closed up to Bottas, but I think the Mercedes had slowed down their pace because Norris managed to set fastest lap, and that meant Bottas won, with Leclerc 2nd, Norris 3rd, and Hamilton 4th. Norris was brilliant to get that fastest lap on that last lap and get within 5 seconds of Hamilton to get his first ever podium. Brilliant job by him and McLaren. Sainz scored well as well, so McLaren are right up there. Brilliant, brilliant job. Hopefully they can keep it going for the rest of this season. Bottas. Another driver I have ragged on a lot for not being very good, but he was great all weekend. just pipped Hamilton for pole in qualifying, and he commanded this race. Hamilton closed up. He probably could have overtaken him, but Mercedes stepped in, possibly for reliability reasons. It was the right choice, and Bottas was a deserved winner. This is probably one of his best races, and I may have to take back a lot about what I've said about him. Other than that, I think it was Sainz 5th, which means it is just a great result for McLaren. Perez, Racing Point, they were really, really up there this weekend. Much better than last year. If they can keep that up, that'd be great. Gasly, Ocon, it's great to see them score points. Giovinazzi really turned it around from last year. May have to take back a lot of what I said about him as well. Vettel managed to scrape 10th. And Latifi, a great debut in 11th. He was at the back for the whole race, but he survived and he got 11th for it. Probably a great result for Williams. So who's in trouble? Williams still have a lot to make up, but they are better off than last year. Haas, on the other hand, are terrible. They didn't qualify well. They had issues during the race very quickly in terms of Magnussen, who was doing okay. I think he was up to 12. But they need to improve. Grosjean needs to stop spinning. I love Grosjean, as I said. I don't want to see him gone, but he will be if he keeps crashing. Where he does it with fair regularity. Magnussen is also capable of that. This wasn't his fault. But Haas need to improve. Alfa Romeo weren't that competitive. I think, again, Giovinazzi just managed to survive more than anything. Raikkonen probably would have been ahead of him if he hadn't crashed out. So it was a fair race, but they also need to improve. AlphaTauri were just kind of there. Don't really remember seeing them in the race that much. Gasly was, again, scoring points by surviving. Ocon, pretty much the same, but Renault did look more competitive. So we'll see more from them. Obviously, Ocon's had a big break. He's coming back to the sport. And he scored points on his return. So it's a good job for him. Ferrari need to improve quickly, because they should not be fighting McLaren and Racing Point. Both of those teams have done great jobs over the summer, obviously, and obviously with the long break and all the issues that have come up recently. They've done a great job. Ferrari need to make sure they stay ahead of those teams. And in this race, and it's only one track, but we are returning to it next week, Ferrari need to improve. Mercedes, dominant as ever. I don't know how critical their gearbox sensory issues were, but if Bottas can keep this up and just be a genuine contender to Lewis Hamilton, I will be happy. Just some stakes going throughout the season rather than Hamilton winning it with 5 races to go. That's all I'm asking. This was the best drive by Bottas I think I've ever seen all weekend. And he made mistakes still. If he can cut out those mistakes and just stay competitive, he has a 13-point lead over Hamilton after one race. If there's only 8 races in a season, he only needs to win a couple more to be a genuine contender. And I think Mercedes have a good chance of taking a clean sweep this season, because everyone else seems to have taken a massive step backwards. We will have to see. And obviously we're at Austria again next weekend. Hopefully it's as exciting as this race was. Maybe with less retirements. There was a bit too much going on. Too few cars going around in the end. We will have to see. As for Hamilton, I think he's probably going to win. As I said, Mercedes don't really seem to have anyone challenging them at this point. We'll have to see how that develops over the season, if teams do develop the cars. But if this is it, and it's just Mercedes 6/10 ahead of everyone else, it's going to be a boring season. So we need Bottas to consistently score points and stay in touch with Hamilton. First race, he beats him. That's great. Will it happen at 7 more races? Probably not. We've got 2 races at Silverstone. Hamilton always seems to win at Silverstone. So Bottas needs to do well when he doesn't win, and he needs to win a couple of races at least, just to keep it interesting. If Hamilton wins, he'll be a 7-time world champion, tied with Schumacher, but in a racing season of only 8 races, does it mean the same thing? Doesn't matter. On the paperwork, it will say 7-time world champion. The regulations aren't changing next season, so Mercedes will probably be just as dominant. He's probably going to be an 8-time world champion next year. Probably not the way to win it. I think in retrospect of his career, when he retires, people may look back and go, may have been a bit too easy for him. I did see some. I mean, I haven't had internet, so I haven't been able to keep up with news. But I did see something that said that if there's less than 10 races, it doesn't count as a world championship. I don't know if that's true or if I've misread that. If someone knows, leave a comment. Because I'd be interested to see how that affects it. But there are potentially more races coming. There's a lot that are just postponed and not cancelled. Don't think we'll see many of them. I hope we don't have like a 2020, 2021 championship that sort of merged together or something, because I would hate that. And I'd be interested to see what happens next year with the cars and then the new regulations in 2022. So that was the race. It was exciting. Some very good driving. Quite a few incidents. It's not too many talking points really. The Hamilton-Albon one was the main one, and I think it was a fairly cut and dry penalty. Albon could have been more patient, maybe waited a bit longer, maybe ducked out of that move, but he had every right to be there, and Hamilton should have probably given him more space. So that's my verdict on that. As for the channel, I haven't really got any plans for anything moving forward. I wasn't expecting to have internet back today, and this is just off the top of my head. Going forward, I'm trying to keep up with the racing, but my life circumstances have changed. During this pandemic, I've had a child, as you can probably tell. I've also moved house, as you can also probably tell. This has been stressful and manic and very weird, and it's not worked out the way everything was planned, and it's only just now coming together. What should have been happening end of April. So we've been kind of delayed 2-3 months. That coincided with the internet going out. I did 2 weeks worth of videos thinking I'd only have no internet for 2 weeks, and it actually just ended up working out a lot longer than that. So I haven't done anything on the channel for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that. I'm going to try and get back into regular videos, but obviously my life circumstances have changed, and I'm sort of just picking up the pieces now, and I'm going to have to see what happens, because I don't really know how this is all going to work, because I have other responsibilities, and funnily enough, a baby comes before a small YouTube channel. But if you want to stick around, please subscribe, leave a comment, like, whatever. My subscriber count has jumped up massively since I left. I think it was on something like 45, 46, and it's now 56, or 55, 56. So I've got 10 subscribers in the last few weeks. To everyone who subscribed, thank you very much. Really awesome of you to stick around. Please leave a comment. I will try and address them. I made a video about 4 reasons I disliked Lewis Hamilton just before the internet went off. I didn't really like that video. It was rushed. I didn't really have my thoughts put down. I stand by it, but I'm probably not going to go back and answer any of the comments on that because I can't be bothered. It's too much work now. So either if you agreed or disagreed, if you have your own reasons for disliking him, or you just want to call me names, thank you for commenting anyway, because it all helps. It's all interactions and it's all fun. And that's what the main thing about this channel is. It's so much fun. I'm going to try and stay away from doing things like that. It was honestly an easy video at the time. I just needed to fill a slot in my plans, which all fell apart anyway. It was it was quicker to do that than what I planned. And what I planned hasn't happened yet, and I'm going to try and work on that soon. So there's some big videos coming out if I have time. I don't really have a set date for them. But subscribe. I'm going to try and review the Formula 2 and Formula 3 and IndyCar race from this weekend as well, if I have time to watch them and then review them. So stick around for that. And honestly, stick around for it, because Formula 2 and Formula 3 are very interesting. I think there are some fantastic young drivers coming through. I haven't watched the Formula 2 race yet, and I'm interested to see how people like Deruvala and Sonoda and Armstrong, Schwartzman, people who come from Formula 3 are going to do in that. Against the likes of Mick Schumacher and Guan Yu Zhou and all the talented drivers that are there. It really is a stacked grid in Formula 2. Same with Formula 3, I think there's a lot of great drivers there as well. A lot of potential for the future of Formula 1. So, thank you for watching. and come back soon, because I will, because I have internet now.